The first night I spent at Ranger Station 13, I heard my own voice come through the radio. I had not touched the microphone. I had not pressed the talk button. I was standing in the middle of the cabin with my gloves still on, snow melting off my boots, when the old wall radio crackled once and whispered my name. Nora. It was my voice, not someone who sounded like me, not static bending itself into something familiar. Me, same tired breath, same low tone, same little break at the end of my words that I have hated since I was a teenager. Nora, it said again, open the door. I remember standing there, staring at that radio, feeling the kind of fear that does not move fast. It did not hit me all at once. It spread slowly, from my chest to my throat, from my throat to my hands. And then, before I could think of anything to say, the voice came through one more time. Don't trust the man who brought you here. My name is Nora Blake. At the time, I was 34 years old, working as a ranger in Black Pine National Forest in northern Oregon. Before that, I had been a crime scene photographer. I spent almost 8 years taking pictures of things people should never have to see. Bedrooms with overturned furniture, cars at the bottom of ravines, motel rooms no one wanted to clean, and, in the case that finally broke me, the last known photographs of 3 missing children. That case never left me. People think photographs preserve the truth. They do not. They preserve whatever was standing in front of the lens at one exact second. Everything outside the frame gets to hide. I left crime scene work because I was tired of looking at things after it was already too late. I thought being a ranger would be quieter. Snow reports, trail closures, lost hikers, bear warnings, the kind of danger that at least followed rules. Then Caleb Morris disappeared from Station 13. The official report said he likely walked into a storm and became disoriented. That was the easy version. The version the district wanted filed, signed, and forgotten. But the part no one could explain was this. Caleb's night log kept being written for 7 days after he vanished. Same handwriting, same pen, same logbook, 7 entries, all written after the date he was last seen alive. That was why I was sent there, not officially. Officially, I was covering a temporary winter post while the district reassigned personnel. Unofficially, I was being sent because I used to know how to document scenes no one wanted to understand. The district supervisor, Harlan Pike, drove me as far as the old service trail. Snow was already falling hard enough to blur trees. Black pines stood on both sides of the road, too close together, their trunks dark and wet like burned bones. Harlan stopped the truck before the trail turned uphill. I looked at him. Station is still another half-mile. I know. You're not driving up? No. He kept both hands on the wheel. Harlan Pike was in his late 50s. Broad shoulders. Gray beard. The kind of man who looked like the forest had carved him out and forgotten to put him back. I had never seen him nervous before. But that morning he would not look past the tree line. He handed me the key. Then he handed me a paper folder. Read that after you get inside. What is it? Rules. I almost laughed. Rules? He looked at me then, and there was nothing funny in his face. Station 13 is old, he said. Older than the paperwork says. Most of the people who worked it had their own way of doing things. So this is a tradition? No, it's a warning. I opened the folder. There were 3 lines typed on a sheet of paper. Do not answer any voice from the forest after 9 p.m. If the radio speaks in the voice of someone you know, turn it off immediately. If you hear your own voice call your name, do not open the door. I read them twice. Then I looked at Harlan. What is this? What I wish someone had given Caleb. You actually believe this? I believe Station 13 has taken better men than both of us. The wind had pushed snow against the windshield. I asked, what happened to Caleb? Harlan looked toward the trail. He answered. Answered what? He did not reply. He only said, keep the stove lit. Keep the doors locked. Don't go outside after dark unless dispatch confirms it twice. Then he put the truck in reverse. I stepped back as he turned around. Before he left, he rolled down the window. "One more thing, Blake." "What?" "If someone knocks, ask them a question only the living would know." I said, "That doesn't sound very scientific." "No," he said, "but neither does coming back after you disappear." Then he drove away. I watched his taillights vanish through the snow. The trail to Station 13 was narrow and half-buried. My pack felt heavier with every step. The forest was too quiet, not silent. There was wind, branches creaking, snow sliding from needles, but no birds, no animals, no distant cracking of trees. No life moving where life should have been moving. Station 13 sat on a ridge above a frozen creek. It was a square, dark timber cabin with a radio mast, a small tool shed, and a viewing platform facing the valley. The place looked like it had been built to survive weather and loneliness. Not people. There were claw marks on the doorframe. At least, I thought they were claw marks. 5 long grooves, too high for a wolf, too narrow for a bear. I unlocked the door and went inside. The cabin smelled of cold ash, old pine, and damp paper. There was one main room with a stove, a desk, a cot, a radio unit, maps on the walls, shelves of supplies, and a narrow door leading to the storage room. Everything was neat, too neat, as if the person who lived there had planned to return in 10 minutes. Caleb's mug still sat near the sink. His boots were beside the stove. His coat hung on a peg. His logbook lay open on the desk. I did what I always did when I entered a scene. I photographed everything. The door, the windows, the desk, the cot, the radio, the floor, the claw marks. I logged the time, 4:17 p.m. temperature inside, 28 degrees. No signs of forced entry, no blood, no broken glass, no overturned furniture, just absence. I started the stove, checked the locks, then sat at the desk and opened Caleb's logbook. The first entries were normal. Snow depth, trail status, animal tracks, weather warnings, radio checks. Then, 6 days before he vanished, the tone changed. He wrote that he heard his wife calling from the woods. His wife had died of cancer 3 years earlier. The next night he heard her again. Closer. She asked him why he had stopped visiting her grave. Then came the footprints. Human footprints circling the station. Not approaching it, not leaving it, just a perfect ring around the cabin. The night after that, he found breath fogging the outside of his bedroom window. It was minus 20 degrees. No one was there. On the final official night, he wrote, "It talks more like me now." The entries after his disappearance were worse. Day 1 after missing. I am still in the trees. Day 2, it is using my mouth wrong. Day 3, I can hear Pike outside, but Pike does not have Pike's voice. Day 7, it has learned my voice. The handwriting on that last line shook so badly that the ink had torn through the paper. I stared at it for a long time. Then the wall radio crackled. "Nora," I froze. "Nora, open the door." My own voice, coming from the radio. I did not move. The radio hissed softly. Then it said, "Don't trust the man who brought you here." That was when the first knock came. 3 taps, slow, patient, from the front door. I turned off the radio. The static died. But a faint hiss remained, like it was still coming from inside the walls. The knocking came again. 3 taps. I took my sidearm from my belt. Rangers do not like to talk about it, but in winter posts, especially remote ones, we carry. Not because of bears, because of people. "Who's there?" I called. No answer. I remembered Harlan's warning. Ask a question only the living would know. I moved close to the door, but did not open it. "What's my badge number?" I asked. Silence. Then from the other side of the door, my own voice whispered, "You never remember numbers." My hand tightened around the gun. I stepped back. The knocking stopped. After a few minutes, I checked the peephole. No one. Just the porch, snow falling, pine trees beyond, and a set of wet footprints leading from the door. Not away, not toward it. They began at the door and stopped at the edge of the porch, as if whoever had knocked had been standing inside the cabin and walked out without opening it. I did not sleep that night. I sat at the desk with the stove burning low, going through Caleb's log page by page. Near the back, I found a page torn almost completely out. Only the bottom remained. One line. If the replacement reads this, do not finish the answer. I did not know what that meant. I wish I had. Around midnight, I checked the wildlife cameras mounted around the station. Most images were snow and branches. A fox at 7:12. A deer at 8:03. Empty trees, empty trail. Then image 13 loaded. A man stood in the snow about 10 feet from camera 2. Ranger uniform. Back turned. Name patch visible. Caleb Morris. He stood facing the trees. His hands hung at his sides. His head tilted slightly like he was listening. There were no footprints around him. Not one. I checked the metadata. The image had been captured tomorrow. 2:13 a.m. I sat very still. Outside, something scraped along the wall. Slowly. Wood against nail, or nail against wood. I raised my camera and took a photo of the window. The flash lit the room. For one frame, just one, the glass showed a reflection behind me. A hand on my shoulder. When I turned, no one was there. But my jacket was wet where the hand had touched me. It smelled like mud and dead leaves. The draft led me to the rug. In the middle of the room, beneath the old woven mat, I found a squatter seam in the floorboards. A hatch. It had been nailed shut. On the wood, someone had carved a symbol. A circle around 3 vertical lines. Not letters. Not a ranger mark, something older. I photographed it and went to the storage room for tools. That was where I found the tin box. It was hidden behind kerosene cans, rusted shut and wrapped in oilcloth. Inside were 3 things. A cassette tape, a photograph of rangers from 1978, and a note. Do not play after 9 p.m. Do not listen alone. Do not answer the final question. It was already past midnight. So of course I played it. That is the part people always question when I tell this story. Why would you play the tape? Why would you keep reading? Why not leave? The answer is simple. When something impossible happens, your brain does not immediately become wise. It becomes hungry. It wants one fact, then one more, then one more, until the thing in the dark has learned your shape. The tape began with wind, then footsteps in snow, then a man's voice. This is Thomas Rourke, District Ranger, Black Pine Sector, recorded February 3, 1978. If this tape is found, Station 13 is not a fire lookout. It never was. Static rolled through the speaker. Then he continued. It was built on a boundary. He described a section of forest called the Hollow Stand. No official map used the name. Older maps marked it only with black ink, not as land, as absence. In 1896, a group called the Order of the Root entered Black Pine. Not settlers, not hunters, an occult society. They believed something under the forest lived inside the root systems of the black pines. Not an animal, not a spirit in any church sense. A memory that learned how to be hungry. Rourke said it could not cross the boundary unless it learned a person completely. Voice, image, memory. Once it had all 3, it could wear that person like clothing. It does not kill us at first, Rourke said. It learns us. It learns until it no longer needs us. The tape hissed. Then the voice changed. It became closer. Too close. Nora Blake, it whispered. Can you hear me? I shut off the player. The tape kept turning. I pulled the batteries. It kept turning. Then Thomas Rourke's voice returned. Lower now. If you hear this, you are already part of the station. The hatch in the floor creaked. Not opening. Breathing. I should have waited for daylight. I should have radioed dispatch, packed my things, and walked back down the trail. Instead, I pried the hatch open. Cold air rose from below, carrying the smell of wet soil. A narrow wooden staircase led down into darkness. I descended with my flashlight in one hand and my camera in the other. The room beneath the station was not part of the original cabin. The walls were stone, old stone, not ranger construction. Every surface had been carved with the same symbol, circle, 3 lines, roots. Latin phrases I could not fully translate. Along one wall were metal file boxes. Inside were personnel files. Rangers assigned to Station 13, from 1896 to the present. Many names were marked in red ink. Status, boundary held. I recognized some of those names: missing person reports, accidents, storm deaths, unrecovered bodies. Then I found Caleb Morris. His file contained a photo, service history, psychological notes, and a recommendation. Candidate suitable, strong grief memory, vulnerable to spouse call imitation. The file was dated 1 week before Caleb disappeared. I kept searching. I found my own name, Nora Blake. The folder contained my transfer request, my work history, my resignation from crime scene photography, and a report on the missing children case that made me leave that life behind. Details in that report had never been public. There was a photo inside. Me standing in front of Station 13, snow falling, one hand on the door. I had never seen that picture before. On the back, written in red ink, "Third time. She still opens the hatch." Something moved above me. Floorboards creaked. Slow steps crossed the cabin. Then Harlan Pike's voice came down through the open hatch. "Nora," he said, "you shouldn't be reading your own file." I climbed the stairs with my flare gun in one hand. Harlan stood near the door. Snow covered his coat. His face was pale. "How did you get here?" I asked. "The trail. The road is blocked." "I know. Why is there a file with my name downstairs?" He looked at the open hatch. "Because the station chooses ahead." I raised the flare gun. "Start explaining." Harlan did not move. "My grandfather belonged to the Order of the Root," he said. "Later, he helped betray them. That station was built on one of their anchors. The roots under this ridge grow through something that was never so supposed to wake up. What is it? No name we can say safely. That's convenient. It's honest." He explained it like a man repeating a sin he had inherited. The thing in Black Pine did not have a body, not at first. It lived in root systems, fog, echoes, old grief, and voices people wished they could hear again. It called to people using the dead, then the living, then themselves. Each answer gave it more. If you answered your mother, it learned your longing. If you answered a dead child, it learned your guilt. If you answered yourself, it learned the door. "What happens when it learns enough?" I asked. Harlan looked at the radio. "It crosses, and the missing rangers, they hold the boundary." I stared at him. "They're alive?" "Not the way you mean." The voices started outside. At first, it was one voice, my mother. She had died 10 years earlier. "Nora," she called from beyond the wall. "It's cold out here." Then another. A former partner from my crime scene days. "Nora, you missed something in the frame." Then a child, a little girl, the one from the case I could not forget. "Miss Blake." My throat closed. The voice came from the trees, soft, shivering. "If you had taken one more picture, you would have found me." Harlan grabbed cloth from the desk and shoved it into my hands. "Cover your ears. It's in my head." "I know." The child's voice came again. "You saw the shadow in the photograph. You saw it and said nothing." I dropped to one knee. Because it was true. In the last image from that case, behind a line of trees, there had been a dark shape. I thought it was a film defect. I did not report it. The case stayed cold. Those children were never found. Harlan knelt in front of me. "Nora, listen to me. It is not her. But it knows. It always knows what hurts." The clock on the wall clicked. 2 a.m. Harlan looked at it. "You have to burn your file before 2:13. "What happens at 2:13? "The boundary thins. If I burn it, I'm free?" "Maybe. Maybe?" "That's all anyone gets here." I looked down. His boots were covered in snow, but there was no melted water on the floor beneath him. I raised the flare gun again. "Harlan," he stared at me. "You never came inside, did you?" His face changed. Not all at once, just enough. The smile was wrong, too wide, the eyes too still. The radio crackled. A second Harlan spoke through the speaker. "Blake, this is Pike at Main Station. Do you copy? The storm has blocked every route to your location. No one can reach you until morning." The Harlan in front of me smiled. Then he spoke in Caleb's voice. "Nora, open the door, then my mother's. Baby, I'm cold, then mine. Don't trust the man who brought you here." I fired the flare. Red light exploded across the room. The thing wearing Harlan screamed, but the sound broke into several voices at once. I ran for the hatch, down into the stone room. The steps behind me creaked, slow, patient. The carved symbols on the walls began to leak black water. I grabbed my file, the tape, the 13th photograph. I shoved them into the small emergency burn barrel near the wall and lit the fuel packet. The paper caught, but the photographs did not burn. Instead, they changed. One showed me opening the front door. One showed me walking into the forest. One showed me standing among black pines, eyes open, mouth slightly parted. One showed me sitting at the desk upstairs, writing in Caleb's logbook. The 13th photo showed my hand holding a pen. The words on the page were clear. It has learned my voice, my handwriting. Not Caleb's, mine. At the top of the stairs, the thing stopped. It spoke in the little girl's voice. "Miss Blake, do you want to know where we were buried?" I pressed my hands over my mouth. "Answer me," it whispered. "Just say yes." My whole body shook, because I wanted to say yes. God help me, I wanted to. For 8 years, that case had lived under my skin. If there was even a chance the voice knew, how could I not answer? Then I remembered the torn page. Do not finish the answer. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. I did not speak. The thing at the stairs breathed hard. Then the radio in the basement clicked on. My own voice came through. "If you want to live, walk into the forest before 2:13. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because something inside me broke a little. All night I had assumed every voice on the radio was a lie. But the folder said this was the 3rd time. The photo showed me writing Caleb's words. The station had records of things that had not happened yet, or things that had happened in ways I no longer remembered. What if that voice was not the creature? What if it was me? A version of me that had failed. A version of me standing somewhere among the black pines, trying to make the next Nora take her place. I searched Caleb's coat hanging from a hook in the basement. In the inside pocket, I found the missing torn page. It read, "The final question is not, can you hear me? The final question is, do you want to trade places?" That was the mechanism. The missing rangers were not dead. They were boundary markers, living posts, human anchors standing among the trees. When a new person came, the old one could be released only if the new one stepped outside willingly and agreed to trade. Caleb had tried to warn me, but some part of him wanted out. I could not blame him. The clock upstairs struck 2:13. The entire forest went silent. No wind, no snow against glass, no trees creaking, no animals. Then hundreds of voices spoke from outside. Caleb, Harlan, my mother, the little girl, myself, other rangers. Men and women from decades before I was born. They all said the same thing, take my place. The cabin door opened by itself. Cold flooded down into the basement. I climbed the stairs. I do not know why. Maybe because I had to see it. Maybe because some part of me already knew running was just another way of answering. Outside, the snow had stopped falling. The forest stood black and still. Between the pines were people in ranger uniforms, dozens of them, maybe more, standing beside trees, skins pale, eyes open. Mouths moving slightly as if repeating words that belonged to someone else. I saw Caleb Morris near the tree line. His lips moved. At first, no sound came out. Then he whispered, "I'm sorry." The thing in the trees spoke with my voice. "Do you want to trade places?" The question hung there. The final question. If I answered yes, Caleb might walk free. If I answered no, the thing might finish learning me anyway. If I burned the station, the boundary might break. Then I saw the symbol again. Circle. 3 lines. I had thought the lines were trees. They were not. They were the 3 anchors it needed. Voice, image, memory, the tape, the photograph, the file. It did not learn people from one source. It needed all 3. That was why the station kept records. That was why the cameras showed futures. That was why the radio called in voices from grief. Not just to frighten us, to complete us. I ran back inside. The thing screamed in every voice at once. Windows cracked behind me. I threw the cassette tape into the barrel, then the 13th photo, then my file. This time I did not just light them. I spoke the Latin carved into the wall. I did not understand every word, but I understood enough. Return the voice to silence. Return the image to darkness. Return the memory to the living. The fire turned blue, then white. The radio screamed in my voice. The windows shattered. The walls groaned like trees in a storm. From outside came a sound I will never forget. Hundreds of people inhaling at once. The thing under the roots pulled at my name. I felt it, not in my ears, in my teeth, in the bones of my face. For 1 second I saw every version of myself that had been there before. One opening the door. One walking into the forest. One kneeling in the snow beside Caleb. One writing in the logbook with eyes that were no longer mine. Then the fire collapsed inward, and everything went black. I woke up on the porch at dawn, half buried in snow. My hands burned. My camera was cracked against my chest. Station 13 was half burned behind me, not destroyed, never completely destroyed, just wounded. A rescue team found me an hour later. Harlan Pike was with them, the real one. He would not step onto the porch until the radio mast stopped sparking. He looked older than he had the day before. When I asked him about Caleb, he did not answer right away. Then he said they found him. Alive? Yes. Where? 2 miles east, standing beside a black pine. Standing? Harlan nodded. He's breathing, eyes open, but he won't speak. I asked how long he had been there. Harlan looked toward the trees. Long enough. The official report called it a structural fire caused by stove malfunction during a winter storm. My injuries were listed as hypothermia, smoke inhalation, and stress-induced confusion. Caleb Morris was described as suffering from exposure and catatonic shock. The basement was not mentioned. The files were not mentioned. The tape was not mentioned. Station 13 was closed indefinitely. That was the word they used. Indefinitely, not permanently. I resigned 2 weeks later. I moved 3 counties away. I threw out my old radio. I burned every photograph I had taken that night. Or I thought I did. I recorded this because I do not trust official records anymore. I do not trust photographs. I do not trust any voice that comes through a speaker after dark. And I do not trust myself when I hear someone calling from the trees. Every night at 2:13, my phone lights up. No call, no number, no notification. Just one new audio file in the recorder app. The file name is always the same. Day 1 after Nora Blake disappeared. I delete it every morning. It comes back every night. Last night, I finally played it. There was static at first, then breathing, then my own voice. Quiet, tired. Very close to the microphone, it said, "This time don't open the hatch." I have not slept since. Because the part that scares me most is not that the file exists. It is not that the voice is mine. It is that, somewhere behind the static, I can hear snow falling on wood and 3 slow knocks coming from the inside of my door.